Hey there, survivors, how's it going? I'm your host Douglas here at Drownboy Productions, bringing you another Screaming Ghostface Collector's video. And it's currently October, so you know what that means. It is prime time for all Halloween and horror fans to come across some absolutely amazing scores in thrift stores. And if you've been watching some of my recent videos, or if you're a member of one of the many Facebook groups where people post their different thrift store scores, then you will know that there have already been some absolutely insane finds this year. Tag Gen 1s, Tag Gen 2s, White Shroud Ghostfaces, just all sorts of amazing things. And I would even say that one of the best finds so far was when someone walked into a thrift store in California and came across a rack of screen-used and production Halloween Kills and Halloween 2018 Michael Myers stuff and police officer jackets. If you guys haven't seen the video on that, definitely go check it out. That was an absolutely unbelievable score in its own right, but today we have what I would say has been one of the absolute best findings, at least in the Screaming Ghostface world so far this Halloween season. I guess let's start with the discovery of these items. Recently, a Screaming Ghostface collector by the name of Robert Charles Roy Wilson, I know that that's a long name, so we're probably just going to go ahead and call you Robert for the rest of the video, just for time's sake. Robert was out and about one day recently doing what any Screaming Ghostface collector and horror fan in general, and unfortunately resellers, are doing this time of year, which is going out to different thrift stores, Goodwills, and Halloween shops, searching to see if there's any great discoveries to be had. Because you honestly, genuinely never know what you will come across. Some of the craziest finds in the last 4 or 5 years of Ghostface collecting were found either at like random thrift stores or old Halloween shops where they just had tons of old product that hasn't moved in however many years. And luckily in today's story, Robert happened upon one of those old Halloween stores that had tons of older product. And even better than that, a lot of this product was on sale. He ended up picking up a few very cool, very key pieces which we're about to take a look at, but there were a few other things that he did leave behind. So he didn't just buy out everything to turn around and resell it all. However, at the time of filming, I do believe pretty much everything he has found has been traded out or possibly sold. Alright, and now that you know how these were found, let's go ahead and dive right in and take a look at the first item of today's video. Alright, I have it right here in my hands. This is such a cool piece to see. And I'm so stoked to share this with you guys. I really can't believe that you found this just hanging in a store, Robert. That is absolutely insane. Here in my hands, I have an incredibly rare Ghostface mask variant, and I honestly cannot believe that this was found at one of these old Halloween shops. I almost said thrift store, but wasn't quite that lucky, but still almost just as lucky. What we have here, at first appearance, would look like a collector's edition Ghostface style mask. Looking at the shroud, looking at the style of the mask itself, it appears to be one of those. Nothing too special. Until we pop up the tag. Now, for those of you Screaming Ghostface enthusiasts, you'll immediately recognize this is not a collector's edition style tag. This is one of the black and red style tags. And for those of you who really know your stuff, you're thinking, hold on, is that a Scream 4 production style mask? And you are mostly right. For those of you that are unaware, during the production of Scream 4, Funworld came up with this dwarf-style hooded mask, as we've all come to know them, collector's edition style, dwarf-style hooded, however you want to describe this shroud. They came up with these, and they sent them to the set of Scream 4. Special care was given to those styles when being created for Scream 4. They had a higher quality vinyl, a little bit nicer and thicker. As far as the paintwork, it is absolutely immaculate. You'll notice that it's painted perfectly. And then of course it had these new style shrouds. At the time, Funworld thought for whatever reason that they could use those style hoods instead of using the actual hood for the Ghostface robe. However, production was not fond of the actual styling of these shrouds, so they pretty much ended up ripping all of them off and putting on the original polyester style hoods from other masks that were just like store-bought quality masks, and they basically reverse engineered them into regular standard poly shroud Easter Unlimited stamp masks. Which is kind of funny when you think about the fact they put all this effort into creating a special version for the film, only for the film to kind of undo all of that immediately. Regardless of whether those style shrouds were used or not, it's still an interesting piece of history, and it makes these very cool. Regardless whether or not these style shrouds made it onto the screen, the masks themselves did, and the masks are of higher quality. They also sent a few different batches of masks to set. The initial batch were ones that were specifically made for film, high quality, very nice masks. The second batch were rejected because they had a lot of issues. Primarily, the little dots that you will see present on this mask, they were absolutely plagued with them. And then for the third batch that were sent for reshoots, there were a few of those still included, but ultimately that second batch was pretty much entirely rejected. Actually, not pretty much, it was entirely rejected. They didn't use any of those. They ended up going to a couple of Scream fans like Nate Reagan, and they ended up selling those to the collectors communities for very, very, very cheap prices because this was either still during production or right after production wrapped. So there's some brief history for you on some of the other Scream 4 masks. Now let's go ahead and get back on topic with what this mask is. During the production of Scream 4, as I stated, they made those special edition masks. Funworld also came out with a statement saying that if you're interested, they will be making the exact masks that are seen on screen available in stores. So they had already went into work trying to reproduce and get into production collector's edition, as they are now known, style masks that were just supposed to be Scream 4 styles at the time. However, with those early collector's edition runs, they were going to be extremely expensive to produce. They were going to cost anywhere between $40 to $60 for any retailer to carry it. And when every Ghostface mask previously was like $5, $10 at the most, there was just really no chance that they could ever take them to retail. Beyond that, they were having some issues with these collector's edition style masks, like the blue staining on the masks due to the shroud material. That second batch of masks that was sent to set and rejected entirely because of how badly affected they were the very first of those collector's edition style masks. Basically, they were samples, early run, however you want to put it, versions of those masks that would later be put into production as collector's edition. Those style masks, during the time of production, were still being tagged with the black and red style tags. So what we have here in our hands is one of the very, very early collector's edition style masks that were produced by Funworld. They are basically the same exact quality as the production masks as far as high quality vinyl. The paint job on them is pretty much perfect. Really, really immaculate work on that. And then of course it does have the dwarf style or collector's edition style hoods. Now, yet again, these are not the same as the collector's edition first run, second run, anything like that. The quality of the masks, the way that they're painted, and even the actual material that are used for the shrouds are higher quality. What we ultimately ended up getting was a much cheaper version of that because that was the only way Funworld would be able to market them. And unfortunately, as we know, all of those early run collector's edition style masks were plagued with these issues, and they're not really great for collectors because these can affect your other masks if you're not careful. So a bit of a bummer there. But yeah, what we have here essentially is one of those extremely rare, early produced styles that somehow made it out to one of these stores, and they've been apparently in stock for years, or maybe they were just boxed up and it was some old stock that was uncovered in storage. Either ways, the sticker price on this is $39.99, which is roughly about what we were looking to possibly pay for these masks if they were ever produced in this quality for stores. It also has a little item number up here, which is something that you can see on set of Scream Resurrection for some of the production style masks that were Scream 4 style that were reused for Resurrection. You can see some of those there. So I guess these are technically also used in Scream Resurrection to some degree, but they're a little bit different than the masks that were made for Scream Resurrection. Oh yeah, and if you couldn't tell by the tag, as I mentioned earlier, these were on sale for 50% off. All of these masks, not all the costumes, but all the masks were 50% off, and they had a pretty good selection. They had quite a few of these. I can't remember off the top of my head how many were picked up, but Robert ended up picking up all of these, and about half of them went over to Caleb, and Caleb is actually the one who sent this over to me to make a video for you all. Now, I was initially going to be getting one of these. We had a deal worked out. Unfortunately, it ended up falling through, so this is not going to be my mask, which kind of sucks because after seeing it in person, it is absolutely gorgeous and I wish I was keeping it. But I am lucky enough to say I do have one of the actual Scream 4 production styles that is signed by Wes. So I'm still very happy to have one of those in my collection, but this thing is still incredibly cool. And to think about the fact that this was found modern day just hanging on the shelves and marked 50% off, is absolutely mind-blowing. So Robert, congratulations on an absolutely crazy find. I do want to reiterate for all of you watching, this is not a mask from set. This isn't a situation where it made it from production to this place and now they're being resold. These are just the same style masks. But to some degree, it's even rarer to come across some of these in the wild like this, because they were never meant to be circulated or sold to the public. As far as I know, these are the first examples of those I have ever seen. So absolutely incredible. Way to make Ghostface history with one of the craziest in-store finds like that. Just congratulations yet again. But as I also stated, he did find a few other really cool pieces from the Scream 4 era. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what I did end up picking up from Caleb. I guess we'll start things off light with a fun novelty item that does technically count as a mask. Here we have the Ghostface Fun World Creature Cap. Many of you have seen these before, many of you haven't. What you essentially have here is a hat, of course, with a mesh screen that hangs down over your face that would show several different characters. They did more than just Ghostface, but of course we're after Ghostface here. Now with the tag working how it is, and the fact that this one is pretty wrinkled, it's kind of difficult to really see the face there, but it's a pretty cool little graphic. If you look at the tag itself, you can see it a bit better. And the tag is also why I picked up this copy. Many of you who are dedicated watchers who have seen pretty much all my videos, you'll go, Douglas, don't you already have one of those? And I do. I have one that is partially tagged. So now that I have one completely tagged, I'm probably going to untag the other one and wear it. I know this thing is pretty ridiculous, but at the same time I think it would be pretty fun to be walking around with a normal hat on, and you have your mesh pushed up inside, then you lift the brim, the mesh falls down, and now you've got a mask on. It's a mask, it's a hat, it's Ghostface related. What more could you guys want? I absolutely love this thing, and I do believe they are pretty rare. If you are looking for one, I think Caleb does have an extra one of these that they picked up that was untagged or partially tagged. Personally, I just needed a tag copy for the collection. So Caleb, huge thanks for this. I know it is a weird piece, but I absolutely love all the weird odds and ends Ghostface stuff. And last but certainly not least, it's definitely not gonna top the mask, but it's still pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at this full costume. Here we have the collector's edition style zombie Ghostface costume. Now, I'm not super dedicated to having every single costume variant out there, but there are a few rare ones like the glow bleeding styles and of course the collector's edition style costumes that I would not mind having at least one of each to represent here in the collection. And for a little while now, I have had not one, but two standard collector's edition style costumes. One of them is a regular bagged version as such. The other is the Kmart style version that just kind of hangs on its own. It doesn't have a bag or anything, that's just how it was made. And he's still hanging out over here, looking nice and neat. But the zombie is one of the harder styles to come across. Honestly, both collector's edition costumes are very rare to come across. And I was hoping that this was going to fall into the 30% off category because it is marked for $59.99. So I was really hoping to pay about $30, but I guess still for $60 modern day, these are almost impossible to find. To find them complete and for that price is really not too terrible. And for any of you who don't know, these collector's edition style costumes are not just your standard Ghostface robe with a collector's edition style mask. No. These are made entirely out of the collector's edition gauze-like material. So if you're interested in trying to have a Scream Resurrection style costume, one of these is pretty much as close as you can get. I don't think I've really even seen robe makers try to replicate that style robe, but then again, we never really get any good looks at that costume. Regardless, if you're trying to replicate that version of Ghostface for any reason, one of these robes, in my opinion, would be one of your best bets. And with this edition, I now have both versions of the collector's edition style costumes, so Caleb and Robert, thank you both for looking out for me and getting me this piece. And with that being said, I guess that pretty much does it for today's video. If there's anything that you guys can take home from this, it's never stop searching. You never know when you're going to come across something absolutely amazing for a stellar price. Genuinely, it could be years and years of dry spells, coming up with nothing, and then you strike gold. So don't get too discouraged, keep searching, you never know what you're going to come across or when it'll happen. Best of luck to all of you who are out there still Halloween hunting this year. I love you all, thank you for watching, please be sure to like and subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, and I'll see you next time.